The Israel-Iran conflict has directly impacted both regional and global economies. Key infrastructure was hit in Iran, including parts of the South Pars gas field, one of the largest natural gas reserves in the world. This will not only disrupt domestic energy production but threatens Iran's export revenues, which are already under strain from long-standing sanctions. The attacks also killed several top military and nuclear scientists, further destabilizing Iran's strategic sectors.
Iran has made such technological breakthroughs, and they likely have the internal infrastructure for training scientists in their own universities and so on, that I'm sure there's going to be a next generation of scientists who are going to be able to pick up that work.
Regionally, the conflict has heightened fears of a broader war in West Asia, a region critical to global energy supply. The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow but vital waterway through which about one-third of the world's seaborne oil passes, has become a flashpoint. Iran has hinted at possibly closing the strait, which would be a dramatic escalation with severe consequences for global oil supply.
It is indeed the most dangerous time for the Middle East, because in case of the participation of the United States directly, because it is participating indirectly, then Iran will close the Strait of Hormuz. Therefore, the world economy will be disturbed and will suffer delay. Everything will stop.
Roughly 20% of global oil and 25% of LNG trade pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Oil prices have already surged, Brent crude having jumped to around $75 per barrel, up from around $65 to $70 range before the conflict escalated. Even without a full blockade, the mere threat has raised shipping and insurance costs, adding a geopolitical risk premium to every barrel of oil. India, the world's third largest oil consumer, imports over 85% of its crude oil. While India hasn't bought oil directly from Iran since 2019, it still imports largely from Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE. They all use the Strait of Hormuz. While India currently has diversified sources for oil supplies and strategic reserves that will counter immediate supply shocks, the country, like the rest of the world, will be monitoring the situation closely to see when energy supply disruptions will become more pronounced. The Economic Brief, DD India.
Let's turn to Professor Banik once again. He continues to be with us. Professor Banik, is this conflict, currently only a regional matter, or does it already have global ramifications for the global economy?
Mark, the good news is, as of now, already oil has just increased by $10 per barrel, which kind of translate to, if you do a rough of the back of the envelope calculation, roughly to 6 rupees per liter at the petrol pump. Luckily for us, this increase has not yet been passed through to the Indian consumer, because government has, as of now, maintained a policy that there is no increase in price of petroleum. What we have seen after the first 2 days, the oil price has kind of become stabilized. Now, you mentioned a very important point. What if the Strait of Hormuz get affected? Because as you know that Iran already, it's a part of the OPEC system, and it's only producing 2% of the world oil supply. But thankfully, because of sanction by the US, that particular amount of oil is not coming to India or elsewhere. These are actually sold by what we say shadow fleet only to the Chinese counterpart. As of now, US has not entered the war directly, and what Iran has said, so long US does not enter the war, it's not going to place naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz, which means almost 20% of the world oil shipping companies, which actually transport their oil through Strait of Hormuz, it is going to happen in that fashion. Okay. And my earnest hope is maybe there is going to be a ceasefire, and that will not let us enter in a scenario where the Strait of Hormuz is closed. Because if the Strait of Hormuz is closed, then in the extreme scenario, we are talking about the increase in oil price by almost $23 to $25 per barrel, which means this 6 rupees per liter increment that I'm talking about right now will get increased almost threefold, which is around 20 rupees per, and that will have a bad impact on our current account deficit because 80% of our crude is something that we import from outside. So I hope that a missile does not fly over Strait of Hormuz, because if that happens, that is the bad news for our CID.
Dr. Banik, also, if we look long term, you know, the India has this initiative which is called the IMEC, the Middle East corridor. Now, what will it take, you know, to get past all these geopolitical hurdles to bring it to success? It's a project in the works, and it's going to transform basically trade between much of the world, and they will have access, you know, to Indian markets, and also India will have access to their markets.
Yeah, so this project is our way of, or this is exactly what China is doing in terms of One Belt, One Road initiative. That's our One Belt, One Road initiative. And this will give us access not only to the UAE market, but across Saudi Arabia and Israel, straight away to the European market. So this is something the Indian government or the policymakers is really looking forward to. Now, the thing is whether it is possible to contain this conflict, which is, of course, outside the control of Indian policymakers, and try to see that whether somehow US and Israel can reign over this current leadership of Iran. If that happens, already we are seeing that Mr. Trump is making all the visit to the Middle East or UAE region, as well as Saudi Arabia, and trying to cement this economic front that we are seeing at this point of time, which is a good news for India. Because India is also, by the way, is very close in terms of trading ties and economic ties with UAE as well as Saudi Arabia. And Israel is known to India as all-weather friend. So once this war subsides, I think there is a great chance of India to take advantage of this project, which runs from or through UAE, cut across Saudi Arabia, and then across Israel, and give us access to the European market.
Indeed, we leave it there. Thank you very much, Professor Nilanjan Banik. Thank you for joining us and putting all this into perspective.